Do you love playing with your Stampin' Blends? Then let me show you 3 easy techniques to get more depth and dimension when you're coloring. So let's start by showing you how to create a little bit of dimension inside your image. We are going to just use the attention shoppers, and I have this shopping bag right here. We are going to color. Now you want to always stamp with your Memento stamp pad, and then you want to use thick basic white. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of color here, and I'm going to use full strength color here, which is something I don't normally do, but for these handles, I do want them to be all the same intensity, and this is Berry Burst. Now we're going to do the bag next, and I'm only going to use 2 colors for the bag. I'm going to use the Azure Afternoon, light and dark, and I'm going to start with my light, and I'm going to do my light everywhere, sort of in the middle here. And then I'm going to come in with my dark, and I'm going to come up to that color. And now you can color with the bullet tip if you wish. When I'm going into a bigger space, I will use my brush tip, although if you want more precision, you certainly can get that with the bullet tip. Now I have found as well that sometimes the color is a little bit different from the bullet tip to the brush tip, so just note that. It might be a little darker in one versus the other. So I'm coming all the way up to that blue, going into it, right up to it, going into it, and I actually think I do have darker in my brush tip. So I'm going to go back into my brush tip here in just a moment. Pull in a little bit more of this dark, and then you want to finish off doing something that's sort of different. We are going to get some of that dark all the way around, coming all the way around the outside of the bag. And you can see that I've got some, it's not in a straight line, it is just sort of haphazard. And even here we're going to have some. And I've got a finished card here to show you in just a minute. Maybe just a little bit more here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in with the brush tip on this one, and I'm going to go right over top of that. Now it will be a little bit darker, but what it should do is soften these lines over here, so that what you're going to end up with is just an area that's lighter in the middle. And you can go back and forth a couple times on that if you wish. Okay, so you can see how you have some lighter color there. Takes a little bit to have that happen, but it's a way that you can create dimension, because when you're looking at something, what you normally see is a little bit of a light reflection off of it. So we're getting the reflection there. Now I'm not going to color the rest of it, but I do want to show you. I then cut this out with the dies and put it onto a card. And this one here, we're using some different dyes. We have some embossing in the background. So a bit of mixed media going on with this one, because we have some texture, we have some shape, which is also texture, and then we have our inside. Now you can see how this is very similar here in that we've created that light and that dark. So that's number 1. For our second card, we're actually going to use ephemera. Now the ephemera is a little bit thicker, so I found that it actually works well with your Stampin' Blends. So we're going to use some Daffodil Delight, and then we're going to pull in a bunch of browns. Now some of these browns, first of all, these 2 here are pecan, and then all of these ones are in the sets where you get, they are SU100, SU200. They are the lights and the dark of the browns. So you may have passed these by, but I do find that doing something like this, they are great. I'm going to use one more color as well. Pull it out here. We are going to use the peach pie. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do peach pie. So I'm going to use my light peach pie. I'm going to go over top of the insides. And you can leave some of these areas white if you like, because we are going to go in with some other colors. And this is what's going to create the dimension. Now we're going to go in with our light Daffodil Delight, I'm going to go right over top of that. So that's going to create some more intense color. I'm going to cover the whole of the sunflower. So we're working on the inside of the sunflower right now. Now we're going to go in with pecan pie, and I'm going to dab in my pecan pie all the way around the outside edge. Now I don't want to cover up my color completely. I want that to be left there. In fact, in some cases, I want a little bit more yellow showing, so I'm going to leave that there. So you're just dabbing here. You're not actually coloring like we normally think of coloring. And now I'm going to go in with some of those browns. And you can decide which browns you want to use. And you're really going to mix them up, and you're going to create some depth of color. You're going to do that dotting again all the way around the edge. Don't cover up your yellow. Don't cover completely anyway. Don't cover up your peach pie. So what we're doing is just building up different colors, because everything is made up of a bunch of different colors, right? We don't just have one color. Going in for a little bit darker here. So this is the S300 that I'm using now, and they get progressively darker. And you can see that we are getting a little bit more intensity of color and a little bit more depth and dimension as we go. And I'm going to go for the darkest color, and then I'm going to bring in the finished piece so that you can see that as well. So this dark is like it's almost like early espresso. In fact, it probably is very close to early espresso, so our darkest of the browns. So what you have is a bunch of different colors going on. So you want to lay down starting with your lightest color and then gradually work up to your darkest color. So what I have here is a little note card, and you can see the coloring here. So I did it a little bit differently here, but you can see in the background, I don't have any white showing, but I have good coverage in the different colors. And then just using the dark and the light for the outside petals like we did for the dark and light on our bag. So that's number 2. Now for number 3, what I want to show you is how you can use different colors right over top. So we're not going to use, we're not going to dab it on this time. We're actually going to color it. So I've left the cheese alone here, and I want to color my lightest color again for the cheese. I'm using my bullet tip. So this is my light Daffodil Delight. We're going to start with both of them the same. And you want to still have it wet. So you don't want this to dry completely before you go in with a second color. So everything again uses the Memento black stamp pad. So you want to make sure, because then it's not going to run. I'm going to go in with a little bit of our dark Daffodil Delight just on this guy here. So we're going to do similar to what we did with the bag. We're going to dot in here. I'm going to go back in with my lighter color, and I'm going to pull that out. But I'm just adding shading now. I'm not going to actually create any light sources on this one, but I'm going to come in with a little bit of darker, more orangey for this guy up here, because he's going to be a slightly different color. So this is how you can use your Stampin' Blends to create a lot of depth and dimension. Now I do have one more trick that I want to show you here. So really don't be afraid to play with the different colors, to layer them one on top of the other, because you're going to get a much happier looking result. Now, one more trick I want to show you. So on our wine glass, right now it is just black and white. So I've pulled in one of our lightest colors, which is Smoky Slate, and this is the light Smoky Slate. And I'm just going to go around the outside edge here, and I'm going to pull in a little bit of color. Outside edge and down here. So I've just gone onto the left side of it. Now I'm going to use my color blending tool, which is the color lifter, and I'm just going to pull out that gray. Wherever I went, I'm just going to pull it out a little bit more. so that you can get a little bit of added dimension there. Now there's a bunch more things that you can do, but those are the 3 tips that I wanted to show you today. Let me bring in the card. So here's the card. You can see maybe a little bit, I colored this one a little bit differently. I do have a little white area here like we did with our bag. I've got some different colors going into our grapes. And then I've cut this out and I've put it on with Stampin' Dimensionals. So I hope you like those tips. Please, if you do, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're not yet signed up for my email, make sure you do that. Head on over to joe@designwithjo.ca and get yourself signed up. I send weekly tips and tricks that you are going to love. So thanks again. Have a great paper crafting day.